Welcome back for the finale episode of Growing an Ice Cream Bean Cutting. This is 2024 May, day 765. So you can see this episode is super long. It's 83 minutes and change, almost 84, I would say. So just enjoy this footage while I talk about a variety of things. The tree is doing pretty well. This is one of my most successful growing series to date. It's had multiple harvests, and I'll show you some of those harvests at the end. And it really is one of the fastest growing trees, tropical trees I've had. And it's limited to this pot that now seems very small, although for, let's say, the lemon tree in the background, which you can't see right now, this kind of a pot is more than adequate to support years of growth for a small citrus sapling, or the California poppies, maybe even the Joshua tree that you see to the right there is a little bit constricted. So you can see the foliage here is beautiful. You've got shades of red, brown, yellow, green. Some of the leaves look a little worse for wear. It's got a lot of inflorescences in the making, developing, ready to shoot out flowers. The flowers of this tree are not that impressive. They're not really showy, but I've gotten a lot of fruit from this tree, as you'll see later towards the end of this episode. So yeah, this has been going on for let's see, the better part of 2 years, 2.5 years at this point. So yeah, this series extends for I believe it's like slightly over 3 years. So it's been quite a while, and I decided to end this, as you can see at the end, because it's just well, first of all, it's not a very popular series, which isn't my sole determinant, but I've already taken this from a tiny cutting that I bought at Exotica, local Vista, California, a nursery, and I've grown it to this root bound in its pot tree that's fairly productive. And you can see the foliage looks beautiful, but it tends to droop a little bit. There's kind of a sea change that I enacted in 2025, very, very recently at the time of this casting, in the previous 2 or 3 weeks, where I started using reverse osmosis water to water my plants. And unfortunately, this does not overlap with that timeline. So this tree was watered solely by tap water, and Carlsbad tap water is the worst in San Diego. San Diego tap water is just bad in general. So the problem is the pH is around 8. In Carlsbad it can go as high as 9. And not only that, the water is borderline unfit for human consumption. You can see webbings there just a second ago in between the inflorescences. Might be a bit of a spider mite problem, but so this basically just gets watered using the front garden hose, the shower wand, with huge amounts of tap water. And the problem is water for plants typically needs to be slightly acidic, a pH of 5 to 7, and each point on the scale is in order of magnitude more, so it's like tenfold. So for instance, something with a pH of, you can see a little bug, or it's not a spider, but yeah, it's some kind of bug. Sometimes there are assassin bugs hanging out around here. So yeah, like a pH of 6 versus a pH of 7, that's it's order of magnitude of protons. pH of 6 going down to 5, the pH of 5 has 10 times as many proton ions, basically acid. And you go the other way and it's base, so hydroxyl groups, OH negative. So yeah, like basic water is it's like really bad for most plants because they need a pH of about 5 to 7 to have proper nutrient absorption. Otherwise, you get this condition that you'll notice with my lemon tree, chlorosis. And actually, when I noticed, I realized all of this, and I implemented my solution by buying distilled, reverse osmosis system underneath my kitchen sink, and have a separate tap for RO water that can produce unlimited RO water. It's not one of those systems with a tank, but it has a very high production capacity. But yeah, if I'm trying to flush out all my pots, which I've been trying to do lately, not with this one, of course, excluding this pot because the series ends here. Well, not in 2024, but in 2025, as you'll see towards the end of this very long video. But yeah, you could see there's always these problems with plants that I have. And actually, you just saw in the lower left, if you go back a few seconds, I did plant some seeds from some of the ice cream bean pods. And I just never got around to making growing ice cream bean pods from seed series. But I grew those seeds for a few weeks and just documented that. So I should go back and make that into this little mini series to show you the complete life cycle. So what I'm looking at here is these little white dots. I'm looking for anything like aphids, any kind of pests, so in this timeline, or this part of 2024, I was still in a process of trying to figure out what the problem is with most of my plants. And here I'm spraying pesticide, so Bayer Bio Advanced, 3-in-1, that kind of stuff. And it's a very old bottle, so I don't know how effective it is, but essentially I spent all this time telling you that I installed a new RO system in 2025, but the footage you're looking at here is a year prior to that, where I didn't have the problem figured out. So this tree actually did okay, considering when a plant becomes completely root bound like this one, it actually thrives. A lot of people say, yeah, being root bound is really bad, but in my experience, when you're growing in pots and something becomes root bound, well, the first thing is it has to be healthy enough to even reach that state. So that means it has a very strong, healthy root system. And the root system will bind all the soil particles, or a cocoa coir, or whatever you put in there, like potting mix. And then at that point, it gets creates air spaces essentially on the sides, along the entire like cylinder or cube of roots in the root ball. So it doesn't have that problem of root rot suffocating roots. So when something is completely robustly root bound, yes, you could transplant it into a larger soil or fake soil substitute mass, and it will thrive. But if you just leave it there, it actually still does pretty well, as you can see here. So the reason the branches droop so much, there are two reasons for that. I think fertilization with excessive Miracle-Gro is a possible reason, but I'm currently investigating I'm investigating the use of RO water to flush out everything, and it's really changing everything. You're not getting that lack of turgor pressure, the sagging leaves, so the nascent leaves that are coming out, and they're not growing downwards and curling right from the beginning. So you can see there's a bunch of flowers here. So you've seen all of this already in previous episodes of this 2 to 3 years, of series for the ice cream bean. And they do look interesting up close, but it's not exactly a set of California poppies. Let's just put it that way. So the leaves for a lot of my plants tend to not be healthy. You can see a little bit of chlorosis here. That could, most likely it is due to using this really hard tap water in Carlsbad, San Diego. So the deal is use really hard water. It's borderline unfit for human consumption, like 500 to 600 parts per million of dissolved solids. What we think of hard water is mostly calcium and magnesium and the salts that form from that. So there's a water softening, but that only replaces the 2+ valence electron metals, the calcium and magnesium, with sodium and potassium, the one valence electron metals, which, yeah, it doesn't leave water spots. Well, according to sources I've read. I've never actually tried softened water because I think it's asinine. You're still having a very salty, hard water. Essentially, it won't leave spots, but it's completely, well, it's just not a solution compared to distilled water or RO water. And of course, yeah, there's the steam distillation, but that's so energy intensive and inefficient compared to reverse osmosis. And in fact, in reverse osmosis systems, I've gotten much, even lower ppm than distilled water. So I used to have these steam distillers, and then they would give, well, after many uses, like maybe parts per million of like 15, 17, something like that, pretty clean. But the RO water can get even lower than that. You get around, 9, 8. So yeah, I have a countertop system that I use for drinking water, soups, and things like that. But now I have a very high throughput system installed underneath my kitchen sink, and that pumps out a ton of RO water. So yeah, had I grown this using RO water exclusively, like I have access to, and as of April 2025, then I definitely could have gotten this to grow more upright. You wouldn't have all these sagging branches and sagging leaves. The leaves are quite large, but I think that's just due to the Miracle-Gro fertilizer. But adding a lot of chemical fertilizer like Miracle-Gro, that salts up the soil essentially too. So you're just adding to the problem. And if you remember my Cadota fig cutting series, which started on the same exact day as this one, the problem with that was all the branches would grow outwards, be splayed, and then rest on the lip of that pot, the tall, narrow pot. And then what that does is, it's like as soon as it grows beyond that and it's hanging in the air, they would droop. So I did have one commenter ask, what's the deal with the way this thing is growing? So it's pretty much using hard, basic water, and that's what you get. You get a horrible result. So all of my plants were kind of the same way. And the reason the mango cutting that I bought on the same day, started on the same day, along with the other two plants that I just mentioned, ice cream bean and Cadota fig, is that fell over after it grew for a little bit, again because of the water. So I believe because the water is basic and it's very hard, the soil, or the cocoa coir in this case, is essentially salted over time because the plant takes up water but leaves behind all that, all the minerals. And then the biggest problem of all, of course, is like when you reverse osmosis, carry out reverse osmosis, you lower the pH, just like with distilled water or rainwater. It's slightly acidic because it absorbs carbon dioxide in the air, and that forms a mild bit of carbonic acid, which lowers the pH. But actually, plants love, most of them love a pH of about 5 to 7 in their soil. So if you go 8 to 9 with this crappy, basic, hard tap water that we have here in San Diego County, you're going to run into problems like I've had with all my plants, basically. And one observation I had was also, well, this tree is very robust, but the ones that weren't as robust, they had this problem, or sort of a phenotype. It's just an anecdotal observation I accumulated over time. It's the plants, aside from the Joshua tree in this, would really struggle after being watered. In fact, this tree was also, I had to water, do like a max watering, saturation watering, like twice a week during August. We haven't gone there yet in this footage, but yeah, the plants would suffer, especially things like the mango, the lemon, the California poppies. And I was just always wondering about that. It's like, why is it so? It's like the cocoa coir is all dry, so obviously the plants need water. The leaves are starting to wilt, and then I water a lot with this tap water using that hose you see in the background and on the left side. And then in the following few days, it's almost like I've poisoned my plants and they're on life support. That's because the water is so basic. And yeah, the poppies, yeah, that's a very thirsty plant as well. But yeah, the fruit trees like lemon, mango, they really suffer from using this kind of tap water. So of course, not all plants have necessarily this huge vulnerability to using basic water. I'm sure the native plants around here, well, they don't access the Colorado River necessarily, but if there's like basic soil in a place, or some such scenario, the plants could be evolved locally to deal with that, and thus, you try to plant fruit trees from the outside world, or whatever flowers, and they won't do well. So yeah, and I'm also like just pouring on, the Miracle Grow mixed in with the crushed vitamins for the calcium and the minerals. Actually, the crushed vitamins are mostly made of calcium carbonate that can buffer the solution, buffer any acids. So yeah, I mean, that could further have the effect of raising the pH or making it harder for the pH to fall. And of course, like I mentioned, all those chemical fertilizer salt crystals, it's like, yeah, you dissolve them with this tap water, but yeah, you're adding in salt, you're adding in minerals, very excessive hard water, and very basic tap water. So it's a real bad combo. But this tree actually did quite well, aside from well, I'll show you the problems later. But yeah, there's many of the phenotypes that you see with the problems that you'll see with like the Cadota fig. It's like the drooping branches that almost touch the ground. All of my plants basically, well, except for the Joshua tree, because of its the nature of its leaves, and it doesn't have branches. So yeah, all my plants have these same few problems. You can see there's some unhealthy new leaves. You can see there's, later on I'll show you many instances where the leaves are kind of rusted or have mold or some kind of chlorosis. So it's the same phenotypes that you see, or disease symptoms you see over and over again. And that's because the water is bad. So yeah, I've established all of that, but unfortunately this series was ended before I enacted my reverse osmosis policy. So from 2024 to 2025, not shown yet in this footage, basically we had the driest rainy season in California in recorded history, but there was some rain here and there. But I think around December, or like right now it's only July in this footage. December, January, I just stopped watering with tap water. And yeah, all of my plants got way better. And then it wasn't until like about very recently, April in 2025, when I'm casting this right now, that I started using RO water to wash out the pots. And I'm really excited to show you the results. since I enacted that policy change and stopped using tap water. But yeah, everything I talked about has changed. The new leaves look way healthier. They come out at a much more upright angle. You don't have these gnarled branches that are sagging under the weight of very large leaves, and bending, falling over, almost touching the ground. Even the California poppies were doing that. So you can see some ice cream bean pods are forming, but some of those they look kind of burned or malnourished. So yeah, this root system, it's pot bound. It's fully developed, and I always thought that was probably the reason for why there's like these underdeveloped ice cream beans. But yeah, you can see some spots on them. So later on, I'll show you. Well, actually, you could see a katydid a few seconds ago on the right side on the leaf. I didn't catch that while I was filming, but yeah, I smashed some katydids later. I'll show you some katydids later. But yeah, the overall picture is, yeah, this plant is healthy enough to produce large crops. But yeah, you could see some compound leaves. Some leaflets here and there do not look healthy, and then others sort of look healthy in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, this thing sheds a lot of leaves, which could also be a natural part of the cycle. This thing is the biggest shedder, and it sheds flowers and the inflorescences, and it makes a mess. But yeah, it produces a lot of biomass in my front yard. But yeah, it was a kind of a hassle to keep cleaning up after this over and over. So yeah, this is well, yeah, it's still a very successful series. I mean, despite the problems, it produced many crops. And you can see here most of the foliage looks healthy, but yeah, there are a lot of yellow leaves, and this is not a place where it gets cold enough during the fall and winter for all the leaves to change color and defoliate. So that's not why. And yeah, this footage was taken in July, midsummer. So yeah, these look fine. The ones on the other side that were kind of like just very dry looking and curly and brown, those are like nearly 100% not going to make it, in my opinion. You can see in the background there, it's out of focus. Oh, that was the avocado series. So yeah, like for a few weeks in 2024, I used that same pot to grow 4 of these ice cream bean seeds, just to show you the beginning of that cycle, because I grew this from a cutting I bought from a nursery, and I just wanted to know what the development from seeds looks like. But I mean, there's not really much to show, to be honest. It's just it looks like a miniature fresh version, uncut version of this tree, just starting out. And I was thinking, it's like, yeah, these things are going to grow like really, really fast. But I got a good look. I think I just never got around to making a video about that, but I could. But here's all these leaves scattered around. So I have to constantly be sweeping these away with a broom. And then, yeah, that's the hose that I use to water everything. So yeah, the RO water, or not using rainwater or RO water, because it just doesn't rain here enough. It's a semi-arid environment. Well, I would just go ahead and say arid. But yeah, the plants on the periphery, even the weeds, some of them don't do too well. So you can see the ice cream bean leaves like everywhere. So this tree is a major biomass, natural fertilizer generator. And then, yeah, there's a bunch of like little flowering plants. It's kind of unkempt, a rose bush. It never does well. This stuff did way better. When I stopped watering everything with tap water, then it rained a little bit. And then this place was kind of barren too. So there's weeds there, and I tried to grow some California poppies there, but they would never take. There's not enough soil. It's hot, it dries out. But the main problem is the water quality is so bad. So even, weeds from the outside would just die if I overwatered with tap water. So that's how bad the water is here. So yeah, I think this was either after I just hosed everything down, or it rained. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was because I like hosed everything down, and then these katydids got scattered. So yeah, I mean, I have footage here, but I basically kicked them, I smashed them afterwards, and then yeah, so there's like two of those, but that's just at any given moment. What happens after I hose down the foliage just to wash it, because this place is really dusty. So if there's like any kind of like construction or anything like that, there's just like dust, like flakes of paint getting on all my plant leaves. So it's just for aesthetic reasons. Sometimes people ask me, why do I wash the leaves? But they also have this mistaken belief that it's somehow something that you're not supposed to do. It's bad, that the water droplets will act like magnifying glasses and burn your leaves. That's not true. I mean, the specific heat absorption of water is so high that as it evaporates, it's just absorbing all the heat that it could possibly create, even if it's sunny out, from some kind of magnifying glass effect. It's just not something that I don't know where that comes from, but a lot of people have said that over the years. So yeah, you can see the fruits are developing. It's going to be a really big crop. This is probably the biggest crop that I can get. But in hindsight, yeah, if I used RO water for this tree, it would have done a lot better. And I'll talk more about I'll show you some of the problems more towards the end of this. But so yeah, it's a few inches long. I've heard that these bean pods can get to be 6 feet long. And in terms of centimeters or meters, that would be like 1.8 meters, about, slightly less. But that's on huge trees in the Amazon rainforest. So this tree, it's a water hog, but yeah, I mean, it's thriving in these cramped conditions in a semi-arid climate. So it's not doing too bad. It's just a very robust tree. The katydids, I think, are the ones that bite these big holes in some of the leaves. I've kind of watched some of these wasps and bees that like to land on like my avocado leaves and lemon leaves and ice cream bean leaves, and I've observed from indoors and outdoors, being out there, and they do not do any kind of leaf cutter bee activity. They're not chopping up my leaves and flying away. If they did, that would basically be the doom for most of my plants. But yeah, there's always like webbing, and then you don't see spiders, and then that gets me worried about spider mites. So my general overarching theory, my theorem, is that because the water is so bad and that precludes nutrient absorption, me tap watering all my plants basically induces some kind of shock. It puts them in a poor state of health for quite a while, as it probably takes the pH issue a while to work itself out in the cocoa coir. And because of that, you can see this tree has actually lost a lot of leaves in summer. But because of that, the pest will come. So it's not necessarily that like my papaya tree was killed by slugs and snails, or that the lemon tree was being killed by leaf miners. Well, the bird poop caterpillars were brutal, but and all these like potential pathogens and pests, it's I think the plant's immune system just gets lowered by using a bad water, essentially. So that's a big deal, and over fertilization could be an issue, and I'll explore that if after using RO water in April of 2025, if I don't see enough leaf growth, then I can try to just use some chemical fertilizer. But I think the main problem is it's just bad water. So this is what happens when you flush the pot. At least the pot here is well flushed, because the water coming out of this outlet hole, this drainage hole, is very clear. So if you have fetid water coming out, I've always considered that to be a bad sign, to have some kind of fetid water in the water reservoir with rotting organic material in it. It's going to be oxygen deprived and full of microbes. Probably not a good thing for the root system. So you can see the plant's already starting to shed some stalled out fruits that are never going to develop. So this is August, day 847. So you can see there's been new leaf growth, but the plant is really pouring energy into fruit development. So at some point, even with me fertilizing with lots of Miracle-Gro, sometimes it was like every week too, because this thing is so thirsty. It shed a lot of leaves, and then it just poured all of its resources into fruit development, which you can see here. Now, if these are things that you care about, like melons or whatever, you might want to cut everything except for 3 of them, or like avocados, if it's like the first season and your tree is still small. That's advice that I see handed out on the internet. But in my case, I don't really think this is a plant that's going to be limited to the point. It's already self-limiting. So there were some fruits that just started off like brown, dry, and shriveled looking. Those, you can see one kind of tucked in there actually, but yeah, most of them just develop like most of these like bean trees. So so the crop is coming along nicely, and then there's that balance of, do I want to stop spraying pesticide at some point, because there's kind of a long lead time, depending on what kind of pesticide or fungicide you're using. It's like some of them say on the label, just stop spraying, 30 days before harvest or whatever. But I tend to leave these on the branches for too long, the bean pods, before I harvest. And if as I'll show you later on, if you harvest early and keep them indoors, they go from green and unripe looking to brown and really tough to cut open, sometimes in just 1 or 2 weeks. So that's something I don't really care for either. So all of this footage is footage you've seen examples of before. There's not really that much new being presented, other than when I do it in the end of the video, when I end it all. But I made a decision to end the series because I knew this was going to be a very big crop, and this is not a fruit that I necessarily enjoy eating that much. It's definitely not going to be like eating an orange or even tasting a lemon or anything like that. It's not an avocado, it's not a mango for sure. So these do have well, I would say limited food value in terms of things you'd want to eat. Like maybe in like a Armageddon scenario, maybe this would be a nice tree to have a few of. But yeah, this is it's like a low calorie fruit. It's mostly seeds. Yeah, the so-called ice cream that surrounds the seeds, it's a little fluffy. It's wet. I think if you get dry ones, it's from those really desiccated old seed pods, probably like 2 weeks or at least a week old. They become like that, and then you can just kind of have them in storage indefinitely. So they have a little bit of that vanilla smell taste, but it's not really one of the greatest fruits out there. And this is also a very high upkeep tree at this point because it uses so much water. And so yeah, I decided basically after 3 years to end it. So this is just me back when I was doing this fertilizer regimen with the Epsom salt over and over again. And yeah, I'd make a container like this, pre-dissolve it with some warm water, and then when I did a lot of thinking about it, basically I decided yeah, that the tap water is actually the biggest problem. But yeah, the series has gone on for long enough. It's been productive. I've produced fruit. I don't have the footage posted, but yeah, I did grow some of the seeds. So I've seen the entire life cycle, and I think that's the main point. So in the past, in years past, sometimes people would, complain or just say it's kind of sad that, I'm getting rid of my plants after a certain amount of time. But in the early days, a lot of the plant series just weren't successful, right? Or, some of them were successful. They went to completion, and then people were still kind of dismayed when I got rid of the plants. But yeah, I have very limited space, especially back then. I was an apartment dweller. Now I'm in a townhouse. I have a front yard of sorts, but I don't have a piece of land. Still, my resources are quite limited. So for the sake of producing content for this channel, which at this point is just a hobby, yeah, I don't want to be redundant and just keep showing the same thing over and over. Like with the California poppies, that's a little different because they're growing now as perennials instead of just annuals, and I thought that'd be interesting. But that also has a personal aspect. I just really like the flowers, so I want to acquire some knowledge through experience of growing California poppies. But yeah, you can see me watering this. The cocoa coir is it's mostly gone. It's just you're really just looking at a root ball where it'd be impossible to separate all the cocoa coir chunks that it's grabbing onto with the roots. And it's like this because the pot that this was in, as well as the Joshua tree in the background there, they it was like a cylinder that kind of tapers towards the bottom, and hence it was a little too tall of a transplant, and I didn't want to cut the root system moving it into this pot. That can be very injurious to a tree, so I didn't want to do that. And yeah, I just want to just take this to completion. I wanted to give it a bigger environment, but then I kind of underestimated the height of the root ball coming out of those pots that I cut this out of, and the Joshua tree, for instance. And then yeah, after I cut it, I threw away the plastic. You're left with like a cylinder. But the Joshua tree root ball was not developed towards the top like this one was. This one is just probably the most, definitely the most robust root ball of all time. Maybe second place would be the Sweet Annie, that bush I grew on my balcony many years back. So yeah, the water coming out is it's clear. It doesn't stink. That's a good sign. But this plant is a major water hog, as you can imagine, and it's very, very high in upkeep. It sheds leaves everywhere during the summer. Like in this footage, it needs to be watered like in August, September, like twice a week, and that's literally me holding that nozzle, that shower nozzle, to the root ball for like 10 minutes. It's a very long time, and it's a lot of water too. Water bills have gone up for sure. So yeah, at this point, anytime you see me using this green what is it, Southern Patio or whatever, watering can, it's basically because I'm fertilizing. So it's, yeah, I mean, of course, but yeah, it's in tap water as well. So it's just adding more of the same problem: basic, very hard mineralized water. So I think this tree has done quite well despite the handicaps. enforced by the poor, low quality water. Otherwise, it could have done better. The leaves would have grown better. Everything would be growing more upright. The branches wouldn't be gnarled and in some cases sagging all the way towards the ground. So it's basically the same problem across many different plant species that I'm growing. But yeah, I basically decided, after this harvest, I would have seen enough, shown you enough about the life cycle of this plant and the production of fruit. So there's really nothing to look forward to. So this is a new bottle of Spectracide Malathion insect spray. And I decided, because my old bottle of Bayer BioAdvance 3-in-1 was so, started getting a little foul smelling. And I noticed if I diluted too much in my backpack spray and used it over like weeks or months, it would kind of stink too. But yeah, this is the multi-purpose fungicide Immunox. So Spectracide, Immunox, and bug killer, fungus killer. So I would mix these two in, and there's a very powerful like disinfectant, Physin 20, that somebody recommended a long time ago. So I ended up mixing these three together and stopped using the old bottle of Bayer BioAdvance, which I threw away at some point. Probably not at this point. I think that's it's either the larva or something, or it basically eats aphids, although I don't really seem to have an aphid problem on this. But like I showed you when I turned over many of the leaves, there would be a little like white speck here and there, but not big enough for me to make the call that they're aphids. Generally, I didn't really see any pests underneath. I saw some katydids, but yeah, you can see some of the leaves are kind of curled. The fruits, I think they just kind of do it. The fruits look pretty gnarly sometimes. So yeah, I mean, it's not the picture of perfect health. And I'll show you in later clips in this video what I'm talking about. Some of the leaves are kind of diseased. So yeah, it was kind of a paradox. This thing had a very strong root ball. It was completely root bound in its pot. And, it seemed to shoot out a lot of big green healthy leaves and very colorful young leaves. And then now it's once again, it's kind of like it doesn't have enough leaves, and some of the leaves are curly and kind of rusted with some kind of fungus. This webbing here looks like it could be from spider mites. So yeah, I did this pilot test. I actually don't recommend spraying it in a bottle like this at arm's length. Get a backpack sprayer, battery powered backpack sprayer, because this is just sometimes you're spraying at some angles, and then you can kind of feel it blowing back onto your lips, your face, and then you feel these little micro droplets drying out. So it's just nasty. And then I have to go inside and kind of wash my face with a little bit of soap, and then just keep rinsing and rinsing, because I feel kind of like I'm getting poisoned or feel a little disgusted by it all. So definitely you don't want to be eating that stuff in. But yeah, after I do stuff like this, I generally go in and take a shower, get out of my clothes, and then yeah, just put on some new clothes. And after a long shower, it feels nice, gets rid of all the sweat. But yeah, the other purpose is just in case I have a pesticide, fungicide on me. So you can see the tree is quite big at this point. I mean, it's a matter of perspective, because yeah, standing like behind it, I look kind of small there, and the tree looks really big. But this thing, I mean, yeah, it was taller than me for sure. And even considering the pot and the root ball sticking out so much, yeah, I mean, it's definitely human height. It kind of sprawls to the side, as you can see, and then the branches kind of drag due to the poor water quality and how that leads to growth. The plants just can't stand up on their own. But I figured this was good enough. The plant was healthy enough. For the most part, the macro picture, the plant looks pretty healthy, and it was going to produce a big crop. But was it going to produce like a lot of nice healthy bean pods that weren't molding over? That remained to be seen. But I left these things. I generally just leave these things on the branches for ages and ages, and the timing's kind of weird. So this is like August 2024, and I believe I harvest 4 months later. And I did some harvest before that, but these bean pods take a long time to grow, and I don't really know at what point I would consider them ripe. I mean, you can eat them green. Actually, they're easiest cut open when they're green. And then if you cut them off, you put them indoors, even in a cool spot with no light. They turn yellow within a few days, and then they turn brown and desiccated, and they dry up. And then it's a real bear to cut them open and pry them open. And I'm sure instead of being wet, the fruit, essentially the fruit meat is all surrounding the seeds it's all dried up in more spongiform, and the flavor gets concentrated. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a mold problem as well. So yeah, this is just me doing what you saw in some of these other plant series updates. I'm testing this mix because I think on my avocado I was worried maybe it was causing leaf burn. So I decided to just spray all these weeds here. And again, these things, this is the only weed that does well. I talk more about this in my some of my other videos, and it produces a lot of seeds for the local birds to eat. But yeah, I just want to spray all these different, unwanted growths and see if there's any leaf burn. So this is, something I definitely recommend if you want to do a test. If you're going to spray your plants with anything, really, you could try it out on all this unwanted growth to see what it does. If there's any burns, if your plants do well or not. But yeah, I mean, this spot gets a lot of shade, and that's like a really sorry looking little rose bush. And I don't even know what this thing is. I've been taking care of it for 3 years, and it's flowered. It looks okay. I mean, it's not like a stunner, but yeah, it's kind of limited by its environment. It's just got that little strip of dirt it's on. It's only a few inches deep, I think. So yeah, that's a hummingbird resting on my ice cream bean. This is from the second story window looking out. So it's really itchy here, but yeah, the window is not that clean. So I have no means of cleaning it. And yeah, this was a spur of the moment thing. So yeah, hummingbirds, mourning doves, kind of sparrows, they like to land on my trees. So yeah, this is later on in August. I didn't detect any leaf burns, so I really don't think that's the problem. Plus, I don't think any company would release a product where it's like, I'm not even using like a concentration that's too high or anything, and then it's just burning up. Why would that be? So yeah, this flowering plant here, and all of this stuff. I actually did a mystery series on those little flowering plants a really long time ago, like 10 years ago. But yeah, all that stuff isn't doing well because that spot gets a lot of sunlight, and it just gets a lot of tap water when I'm, I always think, well, that spot is dry, so I just give it extra tap water, and then it seems to kind of be dying, like everything in it seems to be dying because I just keep using this basic tap water. So yeah, I don't see any signs of burn, and yeah, that basically ends that concern. It's not really an issue because I was going to end this series anyway. So even if it was causing some kind of leaf burn, for this plant growing series, it's not really that relevant anyway. So yeah, this is it's just a super long video, but yeah, I figured I would just kind of talk about in general things that are going on with especially with regards to the water situation. So you see, this might have some bugs on it too. You don't really pay attention to whether plants are infested unless you care about them. So this is, there's just a lot of detritus for sure, but there's also like webbing. It just looks like there's little bugs feeding on stuff. Some of the leaves are little yellowed or brown, but I mean, this is some diseased looking tissue that I sliced off. So these are what the flowers look like after they wither. It's unsightly. It creates a huge mess because it sheds. But yeah, you can see here, this looks like some kind of nasty, rust or whatever they call this kind of stuff, some kind of a fungus. It's not on every leaflet in these compound leaves, but I don't like having stuff like that hanging around. So yeah, I mean, it's a tiny sacrifice from the plant, and then some stuff fell off. These were clearly never going to make it. They're just like really desiccated from the get-go and really flat. There's like no developing, well, maybe there are tiny little seeds in there if you cut them open. But yeah, you can see a little white spot. It kind of looks like a cotton growing out. I think that's mold too, fruiting bodies of mold. So I do have a fungus problem. That's why I bought that spectricide, fungicide and pesticide. So yeah, the local hummingbird really likes this place, really likes to perch on this tree. Although I don't really think they hummingbirds drink from the California poppies. That's like the domain of native bees, carpenter bees, etc. What is it, the black-tailed bumblebee, or is it the black-headed bumblebee? So yeah, this is October. The days are getting shorter. The fruits are more well developed. You still have some new leaves coming out. They look very striking. They've got that reddish purple, which I always enjoyed. So yeah, actually, when I think like when plants are developing properly and very quickly, I think oftentimes you don't get to enjoy that stage of all these different like nascent leaf colors. Like with the mango, I had a mango series on balcony a while ago, and the thumbnail picture is like beautiful yellow leaves, and there's some red leaves and stuff like that, orange. But yeah, I think that phase is actually quite short-lived in the wild if everything is going right. But we've got some bean pods, a thread of silk there with no spider. Always has me worried about spider mites. That's why I sprayed the miticide, general pesticide. So yeah, this is it's just a lot of bean pods developing. Some on the higher spots too, and then this is a branch that's just kind of dragging on the ground from the weight of its own leaves. So if you use the RO water, rainwater the entire way, it's not going to happen like that. But because I've been using this nasty tap water, that's the result. Like, and some of these leaves look really dog-eared too. But yeah, you can see that the branches are unsightly. It's just they don't grow upright. They stay soft for too long, and then they start sagging downwards, and they're all gnarled looking. It's kind of like a Joshua tree, except it's not supposed to be that way. So yeah, this is going to be a big crop, and yeah, we've got some problems, but at this point, I'm just like, well, whatever. We'll just see what's edible among the crop, how big the bean pods get, and just call it a series at the end. So yeah, when I have over a year's worth of footage to edit and make into a video, it's a huge undertaking. It's always several days at a minimum. And you can see there's a lot of webbing here, but yeah, this is also why I tend to procrastinate on releasing episodes of a series if I have a lot of footage saved up. And yeah, I'm doing all this work in the front yard on my plants and trying to take care of them, and that spends a lot of time and energy, and then making the video is actually it's actually well, it's not physical work, but yeah, it's quite a bit of editing at the computer. Takes quite a bit of a dedication and time, which I don't always have. So this is 2024 November. It's already day 946. So these are dried old ice cream bean pods that I probably had inside for 2, 3, 4 weeks, something like that. So these were once green and supple looking. And you can see here, you have to be a little careful. You don't want to be applying so much force that the knife slips and then you slice your own fingertips or something like that. Hasn't happened to me, but just being extra careful here. So yeah, this episode is, I think it's been a year since I updated. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of new content, and all of the new breakthroughs, like with the RO water, that happens with my other series that I'm going to continue, such as the lemon and the avocado, growing avocados from pits. So yeah, this is this is wrapping up. So I'm thinking of what else to plant. So I do have 2 open pots. Might need to buy some more bricks of cocoa coir. So this looks nice and fresh inside. So that's not too bad, and I'll show you what this one looks like. But yeah, like, people have always had the most interest, I think, in my lemon series, and I didn't really understand why that is, but I think it's just something that most people try to grow. And then avocado as well, but yeah, I noticed this series, despite being the most successful one, it doesn't have that much viewership compared to some of the old series, and I think that's because YouTube is just oversaturated with millions of creators trying to show their avocado growing series, because like everyone loves avocado pits and then tries to grow them. I saw a channel before where it was just a guy who this is all rotten inside, I'm not going to touch this. So yeah, I'm not going to eat any of this stuff. I just wanted to show you what's on the inside. But well, I am going to touch it, but yeah, I'm not going to put it in my mouth. So yeah, I think there's a lot of avocado videos out there. It's definitely a challenging plant to grow. Like, most people will plant avocado pits or try to germinate them, and then they don't do too well past a certain point. Just like with mangoes, mangoes even more so. They're harder to grow. So those are very tough customers, but they're in a lot of people eat them. So yeah, that's why people are so interested in that stuff. But for the citrus, you see, I can eat these. Just wash my hands and then eat the spongy stuff. It's not bad, but yeah, maybe I could grow some citrus again. I used to have a grapefruit series. I once ate 50 navel oranges and germinated 2 seeds that I got from 50. That's kind of bad odds there. You have to eat a lot, but I enjoy eating those. But then there's the concern of, do they grow true to fruit or not? And I think there are mixed opinions out there. I even saw one forum that said, yeah, growing oranges from seeds is fine. But then a lot of people just say you won't get anything, or you'll get some kind of reversion to wild type, or if it's a hybrid, it's not going to flower or whatever. So I don't have that experience. I don't know what the real truth is, but yeah, there seems to be a mixed bag of opinions out there on the topic. So yeah, I was thinking, since the lemon series is so popular, even though that's one of the most frustrating, perhaps because it is very it's a struggle to grow citrus. I know they grow citrus in orchards in California, but it's that lemon seedling, that lemon tree that I'm growing, it's the most disease prone thing I've ever seen. But yeah, I'm trying to recently I flushed it out with gallons and gallons of RO water, which has the right pH, and it's going to desalt the soil and wash out all any excess fertilizer. There was just too much Epsom salt, too much minerals. So yeah, So this is December. You can see some of these. Yeah, I mean, looks kind of moldy. You know, it doesn't look like something you necessarily want to eat. Although sometimes, yeah, the peel or the rind looks nasty, but maybe the fruit inside is good. So I stopped spraying pesticide and fungicide close to harvest time, as I told you earlier. So I'm just gonna pick off a bunch of these here and lay them all out on the ground, show you like what the total harvest looks like. So this is the end of 2024, and yeah, this plant is super high upkeep, super high maintenance. Even in the end, to show you all of this, it's a lot more work than I have to put into for my other plants. So yeah, maybe I could grow 2 more pots of citrus. I really like the just immerse in hydrogen peroxide and getting a sterile, perfect germination like I did with the avocado pits. I think that's something that I'll probably try to do with all my plants going forward. The flower series, California poppies are like a personal interest of mine. Oh, this one's all nasty and busted open. It's like, of course you wouldn't eat that. But I kind of wonder why it busted open like that. It could be, I think it just naturally warped. I don't think a bird, or any birds that live around here at least, are interested in doing that kind of work to just get a few calories. That's it's not like a grapefruit. So yeah, I might try to grow. I'll keep my pot of California poppies. You see some mold there, but yeah, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of California wildflower stuff, because I had a series about that recently, and it wasn't that well viewed or received, I guess. Well, it just didn't have a lot of viewers, and there's no point in me doing a ton of work growing plants and filming all of this if nobody's interested in watching, right? So people seem to love the lemon series, even though that's a struggle fest. So yeah, I think I'll do more of that. So this is a batch, do more citrus, I mean. So yeah, these have been sitting out for a while. I always just kind of pick them and neglect them, and then they just end up all nasty like this. And because I washed them, even with a soapy sponge, I figured they wouldn't mold over. But the bottom sides perhaps didn't dry out fast enough, and then they molded over. So that's nasty. But luckily, this is on a plastic table surface. I can just wipe it all away. Let me show you what the mold looks like in full sun. So these have a very thick shell, and or peel, if you want to call it that, or rind. But yeah, do you really want to eat something with mold fruiting bodies sticking out? And the same question applies to the ones that are still out there. So here's the total harvest, and yeah, it's not like a huge amount that could supply a supermarket, but for that limited pot size, for a tree that's still young, grown from a cutting, it's actually not too bad of a harvest. But you can see they're in varying stages of decay, I guess, or ripening. So a lot of these have, unless they're like green and more supple looking, they tend to have a lot of blemishes that make me worried. Like even some of these have these white spots. Like I'm not necessarily sure what some of that stuff is, but yeah, I mean, I'm always worried that it's mold, right? So maybe I've eaten some moldy stuff before and just didn't know about that. Like, yeah, I mean, like, what's that white powdery stuff, other than mold? Like it could be something from insects or other pests, but I don't see the insects or pests hanging around that stuff. So I don't know why this one has a hole in it. That's just a really weird deformity. And then you've got a lot more of these dry ones. So yeah, some of these are just, they've got no volume. Like this one has a lot of volume, but then it's got all these like black mold spots. So there's not actually a lot that I'm comfortably recommending as edible here. Like these are really flat, so there's no meat in them, so to speak. Nothing developed. This is like juicy and puffy looking. So I'd say this one's well, it's got that like white powdery stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you can overlook that and you want to wash it off, you know, I'll put that in the maybe I can eat this pile. But a lot of these are nasty, and that's even with me having sprayed the Spectricide, you know, the fungicide. So maybe everything's been sitting out for too long. Maybe the plant's immune system. I think this is mold, right? It's just been compromised by the bad water. So it's too basic, it's too hard, and you know, it's got all the problems, the symptoms that I've mentioned that come along with using this kind of bad tap water with all my other plants. So so yeah, I think the RO water revolution, that's really going to make a big difference going forward. Of course, you won't see it in this series, but in new episodes in the weeks coming after this, in coming after April 2025, you're going to see quite a difference. I've already seen a good difference already. But yeah, what about the role of Miracle Grow fertilizer and the crushed vitamins? Epsom salt might be a little bit over the top because you're literally adding salt and creating salt rings. You know, it could be, you know, creating salt burn in the leaves and stuff like that. So first, you know, I just flushed everything with RO water, then waited like 2 weeks and did an even bigger flush, and things are improving. Definitely. But yeah, I mean, there might be a recovery period for some of these plants that have been traumatized by, you know, just infinite gallons of super hard basic tap water. So I'm showing you the insides of these bean pods. So the ones I picked, of course, are the green ones and the ones with the least amount of, you know, fungal spores on the outside, or you know, just unsightly blemishes. Of course, these have been washed with soapy sponge and then cut open. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not my favorite fruit. And you can see me often picking off the, you know, the cotton candy, if you want to call it that, the ice cream, and eating it off screen. But it's a little light on the vanilla flavor, and it's a little wet. It's a real stretch to compare it to something as sweet and good as like dairy based ice cream. But yeah, I mean, you could eat all this. Well, there was a spot in the middle that kind of looked, yeah, that doesn't look that great on the side there, but I don't know. I mean, you could also say the same about a lot of bananas in the supermarket, but yeah, some of these are germinating already. They've been sitting in their pods for ages and ages. It's quite odd to see how seeds have this kind of a non-stringent germination programming, that they're basically trying to germinate in a pod on a tree. Like what would that do? You know, well, maybe give it a head start if the pod fell off in another few weeks, and then but you would need this thick peel to rot away, and that's not something that's going to happen if you don't have a human intervention and no animals interested in eating this stuff. I don't know, maybe in the Amazon, monkeys and other animals will pry these things open. So yeah, it's like you open these up, it's kind of like a really packed, I don't know, Subway sandwich of a fruit in there, and but most of it's seeds. So yeah, you can grow these seeds as is, but yeah, it's just not a lot of you know, faux ice cream. So yeah, this is a very small sample size, actually, a small set out of all the fruits that I harvested. So a lot were just, you know, kind of over the hill. I left them out for too long and underdeveloped, moldy. So it might look like, if you go earlier into this video, if you kind of hover your mouse cursor over the time bar or rewind a little bit here and there and just kind of skim through, it's like, yeah, the tree looked to be in excellent health from afar, but it's one of those things that it looks good from afar, but it's far from good. So when you get up close, you examine the leaves, like I showed you. A lot of it's not that good. So I'm not going to eat all of this, but I'll eat a little bit of it just for old time's sake, and the fact that I put in so much effort into this. I think these are some of the few pods that are currently edible and not moldy. So yeah, I think if this grew on a healthy tree that was just being fed rainwater in the Amazon or whatever, it would be a different story. Like virtually all the bean pods would be nice and mold free, hopefully, and good for storage and consumption. But that's not the case here. So yeah, I've examined all of the parts of the tree, the branches, the leaves, for mold, for pests. Then the root ball is really well developed. Actually, the root ball is the healthiest part of this whole ice cream bean tree, but it's time for this thing to go. So you can see here it's day 1071. It's not quite 3 years, but 2.93 is close enough. I think I bought these, yeah, maybe it was April 30th of 3 years ago, something like that. So yeah, I bought this cheap hatchet on Amazon, and it had these horrible stickers on it that you try to peel them off, and leaves this sticker residue. But yeah, I used to have a electric saw, but I'd have to plug that in. There are outlets out here, and then I could drag the pot over and just saw the whole thing down easier. But I think I either gave the set away to a friend, I think, or I gave it away to someone because I can't find it anymore. I only have electric drill set, and then I'm like, well, a little hatchet, cheap, $15 hatchet or whatever would be perfect for this. So I'm wearing these clear safety glasses because that's what they tell you to do on the warning label. Because as I'll show you later on, if you swing hard enough on the main trunk or the branches, little chunks of this pliable wood will go flying out, so you don't want to hit yourself in the eye. But other than that, I mean, I didn't feel like my face or any of my skin was getting scarred or injured by flying chunks of wood. So just protect the eyes. So yeah, I'm showing you my eyes here. I'm not wearing sunglasses like I normally do, but yeah, it is pretty bright out here, and I'm wearing this thick jacket because it was still cold, and it generally is kind of cold in San Diego, in California, until you get to, unless you're in the inland desert. But in coastal places like this, it's usually kind of chilly, even in spring, and then even up until like June, sometimes it's chilly, and then it really starts to heat up, and then August, September is the hottest. But yeah, this is not ideal in many cases for chopping. It's like I would chop, and then actually what would happen was the branches would break off at the base. They start peeling and splintering away from the trunk. And but yeah, this is just a quick and dirty attack with a cheap hatchet off Amazon and solve the problem. And then this is the green compost bin to just store all of this stuff. It ended up taking 4 weeks worth of garbage pickup cycles to get rid of all this crap. So one was for the root ball eventually, but yeah, the branches take up way more volume than I expected. I had to break and bend a lot of them. So yeah, you can see the lone California poppy in the background. That plant series has the same problem that I've been describing. It doesn't have branches, but the new growths tend to flare out on the sides, and they can't support their own weight. So that's one of the symptoms, disease symptoms you get with chlorosis, just using basic crappy tap water. All your plant growth is, it's just kind of splaying out to the side. It can't support its own weight. Then it falls over, and then you have some flowers growing downwards. So that's a recurring theme that I've been struggling with. And I thought at one point it was just because it was, things that are grown from cuttings will fall over, but it actually happened to my bigger avocado sapling. And then that's when I realized it just happened during the rain. The whole thing fell over. Then I propped it up with 2 sticks and some nylon rope. But I'm hoping just changing the water, using RO water, and flushing out all of the salt buildup will solve all of its problems. And so far, it looks like super promising. You can kind of see it in the background. But yeah, it was this was like a month before what it is now. So yeah, I have a lot of these branches. A lot of times, like I said, the hatchet doesn't work out the way I anticipated. And I'm just hacking, and then the branch just ends up peeling from all the force from the main trunk. And then here I'm trying, some swings in the other direction towards the right instead of towards the left. Somewhat ambidextrous, but this was kind of fun too. I worked up a real sweat. This jacket is meant to be a winter jacket, but yeah, when you're swinging a hatchet like this, doing this kind of work, standing in the sun in a black jacket, it gets pretty hot. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to throw away. So, but yeah, I won't miss the high upkeep of this ice cream bean tree. It's a beast, and if you want something that grows fast, this is your tree. But you're not going to be that enthralled by the fruits in general. So unlike all my other stuff like mangoes and avocados, they're very difficult, and people love to try growing those, but very few people actually reach the fruiting stage or have the means to. I mean, you need land. You can also grow them in pots like avocados. I don't know about mangoes. Mangoes are perhaps one of the most difficult fruit trees to grow in a non-tropical environment, or at least subtropical. It's very difficult. So definitely some mistakes were made during this 3-year series, but I think overall the results, it's one of my most successful series, just because this is such a robust tree that it persevered and managed to produce pretty big crops of fruit. So yeah, you can see when I'm taking some big swings here, well, not at this exact moment, but yeah, at some point chunks go flying out. You can see the chunks of wood. And yeah, that actually, the root ball weighs a lot, and the pot has a lot of water inside. And I think at this moment in the footage, the root ball absorbed all the water, so there wasn't water like sloshing around. But yeah, I noticed something very interesting. There's earthworms. So California earthworms might be a few different species that are different from like East Coast forest earthworms, but I mean, they look sort of similar, just not as big. It's not as wet out here. So I figured I might as well distribute the earthworms among my different pots, such as the avocado and the big one, and the lemon tree, which I'm not really showing on screen here, but that's what I ended up doing. And then when I moved the other pots, I realized that there was also some other earthworm refugees, but also some slugs and, roach nymphs, in some cases, or crickets also occur. Spiders don't hide under there. But yeah, if I water a lot, sometimes I'll see spiders running away from the root ball of this ice cream bean tree. So yeah, this clears up my front yard a lot. You can see the bigger avocado seedling. It's been through a lot. Fell over. I had to right it with rope. And then there's like saltburn or maybe fungal, some kind of fungal blight that just killed off all the older leaves. So yeah, it's almost done here. And I was thinking, well, what if the root ball is really hard to pull out? So yeah, maybe I should raise the camera a little higher. This is kind of an unflattering angle of me, but yeah, this is you know, I mean, it doesn't feel great to be chopping it. Well, in some sense it also does to just end it, so it's like a completion of work. But yeah, I mean, obviously I don't want to be destroying my plants if I don't have to, but this thing is just too big. It's too out of control, and I'd like to save a lot of work and water and work on some new series, things that don't quite grow as fast. You know, I always like fast growth in the beginning, but this one and just ended up being a huge amount of work. So yeah, I got to this point and I'm like, okay, I'm almost all done. You know, it's time to just hack away. Then I got to figure out, can I even pull out this root ball? At first I was thinking maybe I'd swing my hatchet into the root ball, but look how dense that thing is. And I'm probably loosening up the whole thing right now from the pot. But yeah, you can see with each swing, little bits of cocoa coir just go flying out of the root ball. So it grabbed onto all of the cocoa coir except for the stuff at the top. And I tried flushing it out in subsequent weeks. You can see like a branch flew into my neighbor's front yard. So yeah, there's no amount of hosing down a root ball this well developed will enable you to recapture all that cocoa coir. Yeah, it goes on the ground, but you can still retrieve that. And then all the stuff on the inside of this massive dense root ball is just unretrievable. So yeah, it soaks up water like crazy. It you know, it takes a long time to dry out too. But at this point, I decided to just tilt the whole thing over. And you can see there's a little bit of wear from dragging around the pot, kind of shimmying around the front yard on these cement slabs. But, you know, this was all I needed to do. Basically, have my feet on the top to prevent the pot from tipping over towards me. And then, yeah, it wasn't actually that much of a, you know, didn't require that much of a squat power or anything. You know, it's not like you're rowing or deadlifting in earnest. So I got it out. The root ball completely fits the shape of what I expected it to look like, which is this. There's like new roots going in. There's Argentine ants that have been really annoying. But yeah, there's I took one of those thin bamboo sticks that I have some extra of, like that I use as stakes sometimes, to push out the roots that grew into those holes, so I can reuse this pot for something else later. But yeah, this is how thick the trunk is. It's thick, but yeah, actually my lemon tree and avocado tree, well, sapling, have developed trunks that are not like this thick, not comparable, but they've gotten quite thick lately too. So yeah, this root ball is insanely well developed. So yeah, you can see there's healthy new white growth at the bottom, and then there's sort of, you know, perhaps I stripped them by pulling them out. But yeah, the roots that extend into the water reservoir holes don't look that great. Perhaps, you know, it's because like oftentimes that will dry out, and then they're just hanging in the air. And probably drying out, or there's like fetid water. There's too much decay going on down there. But yeah, this is a very, very healthy root system. So every time I watered, it would just absorb all of the water in there, and you know, then I have to refill the pot in like 3 days or 4 days. So thanks for watching this very long series. I hope you come back for some of my newer content in a few weeks.